Ole.
Good to see you.
So why don't why don't we go ahead and get started? Rob is coming. Okay, yes. Just a couple more minutes. So the lay of the land here is that I'm going to do a very brief introduction, and it was not part of my plan, but time is special, is short here. So what I'm going to do is always invite everybody just to briefly 1 or 2 sentences as to your connection or with Sharron or your hope to be connection in the future. And then I'm going to turn over to Holly for the introduction. But why don't we give Rob a couple more, a minute or two, and see if we can all get connected. My thought is, because we've got 2 groups here, which I'll explain. We've got sort of the St. John's group and then our diocesan committee group. So we've got 2 different pods here, and maybe perhaps not everybody knows everybody, but we'll do it very briefly. We would ask everybody just to be succinct, because we want to hear from Sharron foremost, I believe.
Should we sing the click song while we're waiting?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I would just sort of, the footnote is, for those of you who did not have an opportunity or the pleasure of traveling with Bill and David to South Africa, Bill, for those of you who aren't at St. John's, he's our former music director. And so you couldn't have been on a better trip than having a music director with you who educates you about music, and then you can sing to everyone. So it's lovely.
We sang in Zulu with a Polish accent, I think.
And every time, Bill, we sing at Kwasa, we sing Siyahamba. You guys and that whole group are just there in my memory and my mind, and I got to stop the tears from falling. It was just so special.
Yeah.
It is too.
I have recordings of those, actually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah?
Great.
Yeah, there are so many special memories from being with you, Sharron and Kwasa.
Yeah.
Since we're starting filling up the time, I'm in northern Michigan with Ziggy, where I'm from. It's a resort town, and it's a town of 7,000, but in the summer it probably balloons to 25 or 30,000. Believe it or not, in my home church, Emmanuel Episcopal Church, Petoskey, Michigan, the choir director is from South Africa.
No.
And so I got a chance to meet him for the first time last Sunday, and he hopes to go back, because I told him about you, Bill, that you retired. It's up to you to explain why you retired, but so you could write more, and that you came back from South Africa, you recorded some tunes, you would listen to the drums, you would listen to the cadences, and that you were looking to write, and that you had written a South Africa Mass. And Andre, who's the choir director, said, well, that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to retire, but I've got a place near Kruger, and I'm gonna go back there and do my writing. So.
Wow.
Very nice.
And by the way, he's related to Charlize Theron.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
And you know, Charlize was born very close to Springs. So, yeah, she was a kind of an East Rand girl.
So, Sarah and Kay, should we wait a little bit longer for Rob? Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Oh, I'm at home. Sharron, we haven't met before, but,
yes,
but
sorry.
I'm Sarah. I've
Great
been
to see
corresponding with you. Yeah, it's
Sorry,
really.
I haven't answered your emails yet, but I'll get to that.
No worry at all. No worry at all. I just, not at all. He's at the church, and I'm working from my home office. So I don't know what. Oh, you know what it is.
Well, Sarah, he texted me that he will join as soon as he can.
Okay. Yeah.
Another program.
Yeah. He's been on a, in a racial justice retreat actually all week. So virtually, sadly, but a great one nonetheless.
So let's say I'm an obedient parishioner. So tell me, should we wait for Rob, or should we go ahead?
Go ahead.
Let people introduce
Yeah.
themselves.
I'll fill him in. And Kate can fill him in.
Okay.
We'll fill him in. Yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining. Let me just say I'm Abbot McCartney. For those of you who may not know, I'm a member of the Diocesan Southern Africa Link Committee as well as a parishioner at St. John's, of course, and on the outreach committee with Holly. One of the purposes of our diocesan committee is to build bridges for sharing between the Anglican Church of Southern Africa and the Episcopal Diocese of Washington. During this sort of restrictions of COVID, we've sort of decided the best way to connect when we can't travel, of course, is to sort of set up conversations with church leaders in the Anglican Church of Southern Africa. So Sharron was gracious enough to accept sort of a spot in our calendar as a church leader in the Anglican Church of Southern Africa. Let me just sort of as a footnote say that we're dedicating this series of conversations to two important people who've been leaders in this link relationship. One is Bishop Elena Wayamkoya from the Diocese of Swaziland, now Eswatini. She died of COVID this last winter. She came to Washington in 2018, but she was committed to our diocese in a link relationship. So we're so pleased that she has been part of our at least history. And then Kitty Hempstone died this last winter, and she was a founding member of this diocesan committee. She lived many years in Africa. She was committed to Africa, and she was committed to making sure that we were closely aligned with the Anglican Church of Southern Africa. So I think both of them would be most pleased that we are continuing this dialogue in their memory. So briefly, as I mentioned earlier, because we've got so many people from St. John's as well as the diocesan committee, and there's Rob. Welcome, Rob. So because time is so valuable here, could we just ask everybody to briefly introduce themselves and what their link was or what their future link with Sharron is? Siggy, you want to start?
Hi, I'm
You have
Siggy Block.
Are you on?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mute myself. Hi, I'm Siggy Block, and I go to St. John's. I've been going there since the 90s. I grew up in South Africa, so South Africa is very close to my heart. And we were one of the first groups of St. John's to visit South Africa in 2004. So that's all I have to say.
Siggy saved my life one of the trips we did in February when I was absolutely freezing to death in DC. And Siggy lent me her black coat for the length of our visit there. Siggy, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure if my screen's the same as everyone, but Holly, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I am a St. John's parishioner, and I wasn't on the first trip, but I have been to South Africa a couple of times on our trips. And in fact, I went on, I stayed for 6 weeks and was at Kwasa College School at the time for every day teaching and helping out. And that was a very special, got to know everybody more in depth than our usual kind of. So
Sharron, you'll be introduced later. Could we just move to Jill?
Hi, I'm actually from the Chapel of the Cross in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I'm a member of our Global Mission Committee. I have been to visit Sharron and Kwasa actually 3 times now. The first time in 2013 when we had our first pilgrimage, again 2016, and then a few of us returned in 2019.
And Barbara Day is coming up later, right?
Yes.
Okay. Betsy?
Hello.
Okay, Betsy, you want to do Barbara Day? Yes, good. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, how are you? I'm Barbara
Good.
Day of the Cross, and I was fortunate to invite to go with St. John's by Kay. And so I went the first time, and like Jill, I've been 2 other times since then. And Sharron and her many wonderful students and vestry members, etc., have visited the Chapel of the Cross, and we just have a wonderful partnership. All thanks to St. John's helping us in the beginning.
Yes.
And I
That's-
went with, hello,
Sorry.
Bill.
Betsy?
Hi.
what?
Good to see your face.
I'm Betsy Hague, and I was in the last group, I think, that went to South Africa 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and I got to know you then, Sharron.
That's right, Betsy.
Yep.
Oh.
John Patey?
Hello, everyone. It's John.
Okay.
Hey, it's John. I went in 2008, and we've hosted many of the South African groups here at our house a couple of times and for dinner. And it's great to be back amongst the faithful.
Great to see you.
Charles Klasky?
Hi, how nice to be here. My wife Sandy and I were first to Kwasa in 2013 and last in 2019. And obviously, along with many other parishioners in the Chapel of the Cross, our hearts spend some of our time in Springs.
Lovely. Welcome. Jonathan?
Hi, I'm Jonathan Notary Asley. I'm a former member of St. John's Lafayette Square. I now live out in the Shenandoah and a member of Emmanuel Episcopal Church in Woodstock, Virginia. I was on the first youth trip in 2011 to South Africa with Lisa Jua. Sharron, just so you know, Lisa and I still talk about our return visit that we promised each other all the way back in 2011. We just need to find the time for our spouses and Lisa and I to come back, but 10 years later, we still talk about it. So I hope to be back in the next couple of years.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Cynthia?
I'm Cynthia Eford, and I was on this, well, I am on the Southern African League Committee, although I've moved out of the diocese now. I'm in Wisconsin. Go to Zion Church in Oconomowoc. I have lived in Portuguese-speaking Southern Africa, Mozambique and Angola, and continue to work on the Angola Committee with the Diocese of New Hampshire, and also with the in Central Africa with the Sisters of St. Mary and their convent in Malawi.
And as everyone knows who know me, I'm a big name dropper, but Cynthia is a former ambassador from the United States for Angola. But Sarah, just briefly, Sarah, could you please introduce yourself? You did a moment ago.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Father Rob's or Rob's wife, but I also worked in international development for my first career and traveled not to South Africa, but Zimbabwe and Zambia and Kenya through that. And I just would really like, I also have a 14-year-old and I'm really eager to get our youth back and to help in any way I can with the partnership and your ministry, Sharron.
Joanne and Powell? You're mute.
Thanks very much for bringing us together, John and Sharron. It's really good to see you. We were with St. John's group with Luis that went over a number of years ago. And I have to say,
Mike Angel.
Yeah, with Mike Angel. And I have to say that Sharron, I'm still grateful to you. I had some kind of a bug at the end of it, and you went out and you got some kind of medicine that cured it up in a very big way, so that when we left, why, I was healthy again. Thank you.
I'm so glad.
Bill and David?
Yes, I'll speak for us. Bill and I went to South Africa in 2004 and 2006. And it's probably been told, but 2004 was really a discernment trip where we went to all sorts of very wonderful, moving, powerful places. And we really felt the Holy Spirit moving, as there was a consensus among this group, had been to wonderful places. We fell in love with Sharron. We fell in love with the work she was doing, and just begged, borrowing, and stealing to make it all happen and grow into what it became. And we're very curious at some point what's happened to Sapitso, our favorite. You don't have favorite children, right? Our favorite child from our journeys.
And Gary.
Hi, this is Gary. I'm with Gary. I'm Pat Dalby, and Gary and I went to South Africa in 2015. It was with one of the first, which was really our first introduction to St. John's, and a wonderful introduction it was. We so enjoyed our visit there, meeting Sharron and all those great kids, and it's just one of the trip memories, one of the mission memories that we really hold dear to our hearts, and we're really glad to be able to be a part of this afternoon. Thank you.
Margo?
Hi, everyone. I'm Margo Wigginstein, and I'm a parishioner at St. John's Church. It's great to see you again, Sharron. And I was with the Dalbys on that particular trip in 2015, and wished I'd been able to go sooner, but it worked out that way. And I can't wait to come back on another trip. And I would just hope to spend more time at the school and help in any way that God directs me, and just want to thank everybody for their interest and concern in this mission and this community. Thanks.
John and Livy?
Well, I want to say, I mean, John maybe can tell you about, we've been to South Africa twice, once during the World War, twice. So anyway. But I also will say that I think it was shortly after the trip in 2004 when people were looking for something to support. Sharron came to DC and we met in our living room, and a group of parishioners. And I woke up the next morning and I said to John, wait a minute, she hasn't got a penny to her name and she's squatting on this mined land. And, what's going to happen with this? Well, now our story is very different. We tell about the seed that grows. Sharron had the vision and she had the energy to make it all come true. And I think it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and just say from this first meeting with Sharron and what her vision was, and then seeing it in action. And I just was thinking of listening to the 3rd and 4th graders singing. It was so moving. And then finally, the World Cup, Livy and I joined Sharon's family and went to several games together.
Mary?
Hi, I'm Mary McCarthy, and I'm a member of the Diocesan Southern Africa Link Committee. And I did visit the wonderful Kwasa Center, and we were so happy to host Sharron and DC at Christchurch, Georgetown, where I'm a parishioner. Thank you, St. John's, for giving her the evening off so that and sharing her with us.
And Kay?
I remember that so well.
Hi, I'm Kay Edwards. I work at St. John's, and I had the great honor to go on our first trip in 2004. And when we, as David said, saw so many amazing projects there, and came back and almost unanimously, but very quickly chose Sharron's vision to follow. And the difference between 2004 and now is just absolutely a miracle. It's amazing. Thank you, Sharron.
Yes, UK, such a difference.
And Rob? You're on mute, yeah.
I thought by now we would have all mastered Zoom. It's good to see you all. And my name's Rob. I'm married to Sarah. And I have to say, for the folks in Chapel Hill, please say hi to your rector. We were friends back in seminary, Elizabeth Marie. And
yes, we will.
And we just got back in touch like a couple weeks ago. So I'm the rector of St. John's, and had hoped that we were going to have a trip last summer, but it was a very different kind of year than anybody ever expected in a million ways. I'm sorry to be a few minutes late coming into this call, but I wasn't goofing off. There was interestingly, a racial justice pilgrimage that I was attending that was just finishing up, and it was hosted out of the Diocese of Atlanta in the Absalom Jones Center for Racial Healing, which is something that I commend to you all to know about that center. And it reminds me, I mean, this was called a pilgrimage, and we did it by Zoom. There will be an in real life component in 6 months where we'll go to civil rights locations in the South. But I know that the trips that St. John's folks have taken to be in South Africa have had the quality of pilgrimage, where people are changed, and when they come back, they aren't the same from how they were before they went. And as we look to what opportunities we're going to have going forward, I want to just hold that concept and keep that close as we think of the power of these encounters, these visits, and these trips.
Thank you, Rob. Ian?
Ian Gunday, Christchurch, Georgetown, originally from Cape Town, South Africa, and active with the Mandela Rhodes Foundation, supporting scholars now very broadly through Africa, and continue with the Link Committee. So thank you, and we miss, of course, those no longer with us very much. Kathleen being foremost in mind, Hempstone, but others no longer with us, but we will continue their work. Thank you.
Thanks. Tricia?
Greetings, everybody. I'm in London. I worship at St. Martin in the Fields, and so please send my greetings to Will, anybody that knows Will. Him terribly. And I've known Sharron pretty much since Kwasa started, and we got back in touch about 5 or 6 years ago. I had the great opportunity to welcome Michael Curry to visit Kwasa. So that was a great privilege for all of us to share a little bit of that leadership that you have all the time. And yeah, it's a thrill to see everybody and start to feel part of a bigger community.
Lovely. Michael John? Sharron, is that your Michael John, or?
It is my Michael John. Michael John, talk to us.
You're on mute.
He's probably surrounded or got a 2.5-year-old on his knee now. Maybe he's just shy.
Okay. So I'll turn it over to Holly then. Holly, want to take it from here?
Abbott, I think maybe we should change our little plan. I was tasked with introducing Sharron, but it sounds like from our individual introductions, everybody knows, is quite familiar with all the wonderful work Sharron has done and what a special person she is. So I think we would most like to hear from you, Sharron, about what's going on at Kwasa now. So please.
Thanks, Holly. Let me just say once again to all of you, some of you I can see, some of you I can't, but I'll say it again, this is an incredibly emotional time for me. Just to realize yet again how many amazing, wonderful people God has drawn into this, what started off as a tiny little outreach project. And as some of you have recalled, that visit in 2004, it really was so small, and really anyone would have thought and did think that I had rocks in my head, and anybody who supported it had rocks in their head too. But God has really, as I say, drawn together so many of you and others that have cooperated and given in so many different ways and contributed what I hope to be able to share with you tonight. And I just want you, each and everyone, to know that I think of you all so often. My encounter with each one of you, severally and corporately as we worship together, has been transformational for me and life-changing. And each one of you has a very special place, not only at Kwasa, but in my heart. So this is such a gift to me to be able to connect like this, to see you, to hear you, and to just, well, share a little bit of what you've been able to be part of over the years. So, Abbott, you've always been my techie when I visited DC. So I'm relying on you now to be able to show us some pictures.
Does that work?
There we go, yes. I'm sure we all know that we now talk about Kwasa College, and what started off as that tiny little school called the Little Red School, and then Daggafontein. It's now Kwasa, and I think we all know, just meaning, the storm is over, the life is coming, the light is coming, in Zulu and most of the indigenous languages, a place of hope given to children who, without us, would not be receiving the kind of education which we now are able to offer. We now have the pre-primary school with 132 children, that's ages 3 to 6. And last year saw the completion of our primary school from grades 1 to 7. And we now stand on the threshold of making a decision for next year as to whether we grow the school by doubling up on the grades that we already have. So a very exciting time for us. And we need that kind of vision and that hope to get us through what remains a very challenging and difficult time with COVID. So next slide, please, John. Just a pic that I took just the other day in the pre-primary school class. I went into them and just wanted to take a picture. As I knelt down to take this picture, this little girl wanted to come and sit on my lap. And that's one of the things that has been so terribly hard for me in this period, is that we've not been able to hug the kids. They can't hug us and be close to us. So I cried inside as I had to almost push her away and say, no, you go and sit on your chair. But I did take this photograph of her, which made her happy. Thanks, John. I took this picture as I arrived at Kwasa during the week. It's our winter now, and that's the sun coming up. Those of you who've been will recognize the road. But that building that you see on the left is now our school hall. You might remember, because I don't think any of you have seen it anywhere like it is now. That used to be that old white building, which nearly 300 people were squatting. And this has been our latest project. It took 4 years to complete, but it now houses, can you see my cursor there?
No, that's
okay.
mine.
Oh, that's yours. Okay. Anyway, we now start school, winter months, and the sun barely having risen, and we arrive at Kwasa. Next one, thanks. Our children are transported in buses. This is the very first little bus which Kwasa was actually given, and it's getting towards the end of its days now, but the girls and the boys in the black sort of wind cheetahs are our primary school children. The children in casual clothes are the little ones. They all wear masks. When they're picked up, most of them in the settlement, they are sanitized, their hands are sanitized. Nobody can get onto the bus without a mask. And then as they get to school, here, the older ones are helping the smaller ones off the bus. And they then go off to their classes where they, once again, their hands are sanitized, temperatures are taken. Parents at home fill out a form which comes in the child's little bag every day, answering questions such as, has your child got scratchy eyes or a sore throat, or is their nose runny, and so on, so that when they arrive at school, we already have an idea as to the health of that child on arrival. Thanks, John. I mean, Abbott.
Okay.
This picture was taken last year, but our COVID procedures last year were different to what we're doing now. If I can just help you to place it, as we look at the picture on our left-hand side would have been that old white building. It's now our hall, and we have that little tarmac strip in front, which we marked out with lines, and the children would arrive and all line up and then move towards tables where staff would sit, take their temperatures, sanitize their hands, and then as you see them now, they would move off to their classrooms. John, I'm sure you'll be interested in the background there. You can see the goalposts, and some of you might remember that. There's a soccer field.
I should come out and referee again.
You'd have to come. It was the team, the year that, who was it? Mike Angel was on, I think. Where Kwasa challenged St. John's. And I think we need another one of those just to settle the score. Next one, thank you. This is now the front of what is the hall, used to be the white building on the right. This week, no, last week, we took all our children back to school. Prior to last week, they were on a rotational basis. So one group in each class was a red group, the other group was a blue group, and they would alternate days. So of course, they were only really getting half the teaching, which is optimal or ideal. And then, as I say, last week we changed to all the children coming every day, which meant we needed more classrooms because in a class we are not able to socially distance them sufficiently. So we are using the hall now for a classroom, which is, as I say, now on our right as we look at the picture. And then the foyer has got another class in, so that we've got sufficient classroom space to have all our children back every day. So this is what happens now. After they arrive, one of the children sanitizes the other children, and they've all had their temperature taken by the stage, and they all wear their masks. Thank you. People from Chapel Hill would remember Lesejo. She's in the picture. This is a grade R classroom. Very, very difficult to keep all the COVID protocols with the little ones. This is the, as I say, grade R's. We had to totally reorganize the classrooms in terms of equipment. Each child now has their own equipment in one of those trays, and everything has to be sanitized, you know, countless times during the day to ensure that it's fine for them to work with whatever is in their little tray. Thank you. This was also just some of the little ones in the pre-primary school. They were together just for prayers and a song in the beginning, and despite, you know, me and the teacher trying to get them to keep their distance, they were so anxious to be in the picture that for those couple of seconds they were on top of one another. But it's been terribly difficult to teach these little ones that they absolutely have to wear their mask all day. We're all very much aware that because of their living conditions in the settlement, masks, you know, would probably come off as soon as they get off the bus. In the settlement, we still have families living in a shack, sharing shacks, so sort of 8, 9, 10 people in a shack, and under those conditions, it's impossible for them to keep to the COVID protocol. But at least at school, we do enforce it. Outside, as you can see, it's cold, but somebody had given a donation of clothes, which we handed out to the children. COVID had a devastating effect on most of the families of the children coming to Kwasa. Many, if they had jobs, many people lost those jobs. Large number of people unemployed. Even today still, it's very difficult for those who lost jobs to actually get jobs again. So we do try really hard to give out clothes, adult clothes. Sometimes children take home a whole bag full of men's and women's clothes if they've been donated. Here, each child is taking home a jersey and a t-shirt or whatever else was given. Our teachers, you will see, are urged to wear shields as well as masks. I took this next picture in the chapel, and it's sort of taken side on in the chancel because I wanted you all to see that banner. St. John's I think that was in our 2005
6.
visit to you. Was it 6? 8?
No,
8
just
visits, and
Couldn't.
6.
Abbott and company in the junior church worked with the children to create that banner. And every single time I look at it, I think of you all. I think of your visit to us and mine there when at the service on that Sunday, that banner was presented to me. And it was just such a wonderful reminder of the link between us. St. John's Church and the cherry blossoms on the right, and our South African animals and birds on the left, and of course the Holy Spirit uniting us. And I never cease to think of that we really are united by the Spirit of God, and in the Spirit's strength, equipped and enabled to do this work that we do. The children were singing at this stage, but so it was a little video clip that I put here, but I don't think I can get it to play. Just above the St. John's banner, by the way, is the one that Chapel of the Cross presented to us. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the children and both banners in. We do have a school choir, and this was just a group of children who we had practicing. And as I say, I tried to capture their singing, but I don't have the skills on my phone. Thank you. They're in one of the classrooms in the foyer, which is on the very end of that hall building now, all wearing masks. Or that's half of one of our classes. This is actually our grade 5 class. So that is half of the number. And the other half are in the classroom. And we've had to look out for and find assistant teachers to help us, because obviously now that we've got all the children back and when the classes are split, it's a real problem to just to have a teacher in each space. So at the moment we're facing quite a large extra salary bill just to make this all happen. But as we all know, as I've already said, it's actually imperative that we have all children back now so that they can all receive the curriculum in its fullness, and so that we can finish by the end of this year. Thank you. And then that's just another class, but this time in the hall. So we're using the hall and the foyer. Thank you. We now this year opened our computer lab, which is an absolute dream come true. Yeah, it's a computer lab. It's actually at the bottom of the office section in that old section of buildings next to the hall. So
remember all this
until we managed to relocate the people who were squatting in that building, this had just partitioning up. It was in a terrible state. But why it was suitable for a computer room is because it's downstairs. On top now is my office and a boardroom and an office for the head of the prep school. So it was ideal because it's easier to make it secure, because people can't come in at the roof, you know, it's got a solid concrete ceiling and roof. But we're very excited about our brand new computer lab. Hunger in the community was a real challenge during lockdown last year, and that challenge has not gone away. So right throughout the year, when we were able to, we would send home with the children whatever groceries and foodstuffs we could manage. So here are children sitting, waiting to go home on the bus, but they were able to, or they were able on this day to take home some rice, some mealie meal, and I think a couple of cans at that stage. Just behind, just go back to that picture. Just, no, it's all right. Thank you. Next one. As I say, hunger was a real challenge in both of the settlements, which we actually have children coming from, the Daggafontein one, and then there's a settlement called the N17 settlement just to the north of us. and people were really hungry. So myself and the staff and some of the children, the older children, on Saturday mornings, we would spend Fridays making up food parcels and packs. And of course, how many we could offer depended on the number of and the amount of donations that we got. But then on Saturday mornings, we'd have as many as 250 families coming for food parcels. So they would come in smaller groups through our gate, which you can just see at the end of the photograph, as it were. And their gratitude and their humility was just so moving. And again, I was so grateful to the many, some of them companies, some of them other organizations, some of them individuals who kept a sort of steady flow of food just coming that we could offer to this community. We're going to do that again, begin it again, because we just realized that there are still so many people hungry that it's more difficult now. Some people, or most people, have the idea that, you know, sort of no more proper lockdown anymore, and so people are okay, and that's actually so far from the truth. Thank you. Next one.
This is the church.
Another picture of the chapel. This was just on Easter Sunday.
Yes, we did it. Yeah.
And I always love when we worship in this chapel. I love thinking of you in all your different places of worship, and I want you to know how very precious those places are. St. John's, Chapel of the Cross, the other churches that you've mentioned, especially those of you from the Diocesan Committee. Just such special times worshiping together, where again, I think all of us have felt the Spirit of God just uniting us and strengthening us, and I feel that same spirit, as I say, when we worship here. On the right of the photograph, now you can see the banner that Chapel of the Cross gave us, and yes, some on the right-hand side against that wall in the side chapel is something that members of the parish in Guildford in the UK made. Thank you. And right up at the in the sanctuary, that there it is the Kwasa banner. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And some of those other banners are also from the parish of Guildford, Holy Trinity in Guildford, when their groups have visited. So just for you to know that you are constantly in my and our thoughts and prayers. We give thanks for you, thanks to God for you and your contribution to our life together. The altar, which obviously now is not set or dressed, you know, for worship, but Chapel of the Cross was so generous. I was able to purchase chalices and a ciborium, that processional cross which you see against the wall. And on this lectern is a big red Bible, which again, Holy Trinity in Guildford donated. So just again to say that, you know, everything that has come from you, tangible and intangible, lives on in our life at Kwasa. This now is the inside of the hall, that really terrible old white building. When the people were relocated, I suggested that they take the corrugated iron off the roof, which they did, to use for their shacks, which was still on our property, but they vacated that building. And this was an absolute ruin. And as I say, it took 4 years to build up. This is now the inside of the hall. We have a stage which has a sprung floor, and we actually have curtains, which to my great delight have a little mechanism so they can open and close like a theater in most places of the world. So I'm very excited about our hall. We recently had the Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra.
Wow.
Come. I know, it was just amazing. I sat more or less, well, here, the back row of chairs, and I must admit, I was crying, because to hear that beautiful music played by this Philharmonic Orchestra to these children, because they were seated on these chairs, none of whom had ever seen or heard a live orchestra, and they sat spellbound. It was just so moving. And again, you know, this can only happen because of the generosity of so very many people. At the end of the performance, when I thanked them, I asked how many children wanted to learn to play the violin or the flute and absolutely everyone wanted to be in an orchestra. Thank you. This is just a glimpse. You can be with me now. I'm taking this photograph from just outside of my office, which is upstairs, and we're looking at the other side of the hall. So in other words, not the roadside, but the hall. Most of this interior, what we've opened up now to be a sort of a, I don't know, piazza or whatever, used to house people when they were squatting there. But it's opened up now. That's the hall on that side. And as I say, the staircase leads upstairs to my study and the boardroom and the head of the prep school's office, just to give you a sight of that. Next one. Thank you. I think you all would have heard 2 years ago, because of the generosity, great generosity of someone who I know is watching this with us, we were able to appoint a head for the primary school. Unfortunately, over the Christmas period, he contracted COVID and was really desperately ill. He still has not recovered fully. And I thank those of you who had him in your prayers, because I realize now that he actually was very, very close to leaving this earth. I set about on a search and was delighted when the man who you see in the picture, his name is Steen, accepted my offer to come and join us as head of the primary school. He's a younger man, he's 53, so younger than Owen, very energetic, has a background of being in schools very similar to Kwasa, with a similar vision, and he's got great expertise in terms of management and financial management. And one of the areas that we sort of are quite wanting is being able to manage our budget, charging fees that are so low, and yet offer excellent education and pay teachers, you know, a reasonable salary. So with his experience, we've already, in the 2 weeks that he's been at the school, had some in-depth and very exciting conversations, and we're busy working on a model. Peter's at the head of this, but working on a financial model that I know is going to take us, you know, into the future and is going to be of enormous help. So I'm very excited about that. We had the children in the hall, just the senior face of the primary school. I had introduced him to the children, and then said, you know, under normal circumstances, I would have given him a hug, welcoming him. Can I hug him? No. Can I shake his hand? No. And then he came up with this, you know, knocking fists. So that's the pose there. We were knocking fists as a sign of welcome. So that's the new head of the primary school. I just thought it might be useful for those of you who have been to Kwasa to see something of the campus as it is now. I took these shots yesterday from the window of my office, which, as I say, is in that white building now. So looking out towards the chapel, which has been restored again, you know, those of you who funded that particular renovation. It was the little old church building that was there, but restored and renovated and added to, so that that now is our chapel, and you've seen the inside. Beyond the chapel is the pre-primary school, and beyond the chapel, those of you from St. John's particularly that were there on that first visit, that's where those containers were and where it all started. And now that the pre-primary school is still there. But if you look then towards the left, you can see some jungle gyms there. Jungle gyms, which after their last visit, Chapel of the Cross sent money so that we could restore them or replace them. And then just under this tree that is sort of, its leaves are turning yellow, is now a labyrinth, a prayer labyrinth, a gift from St. Peter's. The children, their grade 11s, when they visited a couple of years ago, actually laid the labyrinth out for us. And I have interred Don's ashes at the center of that labyrinth. St. Peter's, in fact, Don died right in the middle of a visit of St. Peter's to us when they were helping to build. And it was such an upsetting time, but they were wonderful. They donated a bench and put a little plaque on it in memory of him. So I often use that prayer labyrinth. I often sit on the bench and again, just have such wonderful memories of seeing you all in that place and yeah, just of our times together. And then to the left, again, those buildings that you can see, green roof and white, that's the primary school. And we now have one whole sort of square complete with 8 classrooms. There where that arrow is now, thank you very much. And then beyond it, sort of out of the picture, is an art room. And beyond that, in hopefully August, we'll begin the building of 2 more classrooms so that next year we possibly could take in a second grade 1 and so start to build the primary school so that we eventually have 2 classes per grade. Thank you. And then that I just tried to do a sort of a panoramic view, again, out of my office, looking down and south. This part was totally wild. St. John's, when you were there, and even Chapel of the Cross, it was just absolute felt. And so we've tamed it, domesticated it, and as you can see, built out there. It was break, and so some of the children are just outside there, but I have this wonderful view. It's almost sort of to all sides. The children wonder why after a break, you know, if I go down to the classroom and pull some of them out, that they were not wearing their masks or that they were too close or so on. And it's because I have this bird's eye view of everything. And then I thought, those of you that know me would know that I have 3 grandchildren in Dubai. But those of you who know Michael John and Sonia, I think will be happy to know that they've produced Hannah.
Yes.
And this is just a picture of Hannah, because when we last visited St. John's and Chapel of the Cross, Michael John and Sonia were not married.
They were.
But they've subsequently married. Sonia, of course, is now head of the pre-primary school.
Oh, wonderful.
And Michael John is still very involved on the board. He's our accountant, and he does a lot of the financial things for us at board level. So that's little Hannah, and she's just 2.5 years old now.
Precious.
Lovely.
So I am ready to take any questions. I hope you're still there. Has anybody fallen asleep?
Yes. Oh, yes, yes.
Absolutely not.
I can, so yeah, does anyone have any questions for Sharron?
Abbott, it's Nancy. Hi, hi Sharron. I love your presentation, and you're a master of technology. It was lovely. It was, and it's just stunning to see the changes. It's just you've transformed the. I mean, it's wonderful. I guess my first question is, what is the most pressing need for the children and or their families at this point in COVID?
Gosh, it's a hard one. It really is difficult. Their most pressing need in their home situations would obviously be, food, clothing, and so on. At school, we really need resources at the moment. The primary school is really struggling to afford the resources, books and photocopying paper, things like that. And as I say, we are struggling just to be able to pay teachers, to have them in the classroom. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
So in terms of the biggest nut to cover of those three things, food, clothing for families, resources, books, papers, and then the money to pay teachers, what's the biggest nut to cover of those three?
Big money.
Honestly, at the moment, it's for resources. Yeah. We don't have internet at Kwasa at all. We don't even have a landline, telephone line, so we can't do e-learning or homeschooling. Not only do they not have anything at home, but we have no internet. So although we've got a computer room, they can't Google things or, research using computers at all. So we're very reliant on books. And as I say, we're struggling to be able to keep up with supplying the textbooks that are necessary.
So two questions from that. So what is the outlook for getting wired where you are? Is that just a long-term project for the country, and what's the estimate for that? Because obviously that would cut down on the cost of the resources if you could do it.
It's absolutely simply just because of where we are, it's our location. They've brought fiber up to probably a 0.5 kilometer away from our boundary fence. But they've done a number of surveys, the different service providers, but they don't believe that it's viable for them to bring the fiber any closer because, we've got the school and then we've got people who can never afford. So we are looking at one or two other options. Someone suggested satellite, something or other. But at the moment, I've got a modem in my office which serves sort of the office part, and people can log on there. And then we've got another one down in the office in the hall, so that the administration people, two of them, also have internet. So yeah, it doesn't look very bright at the moment, but we're constantly investigating, trying to find out, asking. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Great. We had I guess, Sharron, could you just give us some general numbers in regard to the number of students for the pre-primary, primary?
Sure. Pre-primary is 132 children, and the primary school is 253 children.
So Sharron, I heard you mention, this is Barbara from Chapel of the Cross. First of all, I'd like to just say that we call you Wonder Woman at the Chapel of the Cross. You've done such a great job with everything, and it was wonderful to see and hear all that. But you mentioned about following up on your point just made, that you were thinking about growing the school as is, which is great. And I assume that that means you're not thinking about moving to high school at this particular time.
Barbara, no, and the main reason, well, there are two reasons. The one is that a high school just requires so much,
So much
equipment, and if you're going to have science laboratories, and it really is a large, it costs, it's going to cost. But the other reason is that those 43 homes, which you might remember, on our property, which is the site on which the high school is set to be developed, those 43 homes are still occupied by people who are waiting to be relocated by government to homes of their own. So yeah, that's the two reasons, but the main one being probably we want to establish properly the primary school. Hopefully by the time we've done that, the people would have been relocated and that place on our land will be available to start thinking about a high school.
I see. Just one last question having to do with your teachers. In America, many teachers have resigned. Many have retired early and regularly. And of course, it's been very difficult. They've been teaching virtually as well as in class, all at the same time, simultaneously. So it's that has been challenging for teachers. So your teachers, you say you are able to pay a reasonable salary. How are they in terms of staying with this in terms of COVID? Are they still coming, and do they want to remain teachers, or are you having a large turnover? What's the challenge there?
Well, we've actually had no turnover whatsoever during the whole of last year and during this COVID period. We have four teachers in the primary school who actually are regarded as what's the word I'm looking for? They are over 60 and at risk according to government and so on. And yet not one of them, when we reopened partially, as I say, on that rotational system, not one of them said, no, I'm not coming into school, or they can't teach virtually because we just don't have the resources. Yes. So they had to come in. But not one of them, they're all totally dedicated. They have been so loyal. And at one stage, we even had 2 sessions instead of on alternate days. Every day we would have one class coming in the morning and then another one in the afternoon session. And even through that, they stuck at it. I'm so grateful that right throughout the COVID period, even when we were in lockdown and so on, we were able to pay salaries. There's something which we here have unemployment fund, and we pay that unemployment for our teachers, and had been doing so since the beginning. And during COVID, one was able to apply for assistance for them to use that money, and that helped us to be able to, as I say, pay full salaries. So no, there's nobody who left, nobody who's indicating at the moment that they want to leave. I think only too happy to have their jobs, number one, but number two, a number of them are truly, for them it's a calling, it's a vocation. And
yes,
and
I remember they're wonderful teachers, and a compliment to your leadership and everything that's going on. We congratulate you. We love you at the Chapel of the Cross. It's great to see you.
Oh, Barbara, I love you so much too, and had such lovely times in your home, as you know, and enjoyed your hospitality so much. It's just wonderful to see you.
Thank you.
Are there some more questions? I can say that Tricia sent us a clip of Bishop Curry's visit. Tricia, I'm not sure how long the clip is for.
So it's just a minute. It's very, very short. Hopefully Kim will put a longer one on the website quite soon.
Okay, I'm happy to show up. It's only a minute, but maybe as an introduction, Sharron, can you give us a little bit of story of how Bishop Curry came to your doorstep?
Yes, well, it was actually an initiative of Trisha some years ago. She and I met and she said, well, you know, what's happening, what you're doing. And as you all know, Bishop David Beertger was the bishop of the diocese when Kwasa started, and he was so supportive of this funny little project. Like all of you, he was unique in that he believed in this vision that I had. I think he had his fingers crossed most of the time, but and then of course he died in 2008, and I was really disappointed because he didn't even ask my permission. He just died. And it was a real blow because his support was incredible. So between Trisha and I, we said it would be really good if we could build something. In my mind, it was going to be something like a library to call after Bishop Beertger. So how did we raise funds? Trisha is an amazing fundraiser, and she thought up the idea of organizing lectures, getting really top people in to do a lecture, and then for us to organize a luncheon, it was usually a luncheon, sell the tickets and so make the money. And the first lecture that we held, and I can't even remember what year it was now, but was the Archbishop of Canterbury. He was our speaker. And then we had the next one, Trisha, was from London, the church there, St. Martin's in the Fields.
Oh, Sam Wells. Yeah, I think it was Barney Pichana and then Sam.
Yeah, then Sam. And then, you know, when I was at Chapel of the Cross, Barbara and Sam, Sandy and all the rest of you, one afternoon, Barbara, I thought we'd had, you know, our fill of church for the day. I think I preached at 3 services and
all day.
I said, let's go home, but Barbara said, no, we are not going home. We're going to an ordination in a neighboring parish or somewhere else. And Bishop Curry, who was then Bishop of North Carolina, am I right?
Yes,
Anyway,
absolutely.
he was
Diocese of North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I met him after that service, you know, and I've just been so charmed by him and so impressed by him. Anyway, the invitation was made to him. He was visiting South Africa at that time, and we actually managed to invite him, and he accepted to be the speaker at a lecture that we held in the University of the Witwatersrand's Great Hall. And it was amazing. And again, Trisha then wangled his schedule and had him come on the Monday, I think it was, after the lecture on the Saturday to Kwasa. And he was absolutely amazing. He was in that chapel, he spoke and we sang, and he was just delightful. It was really, really lovely having him there.
So I will show the clip, but I guess I'm quite impressed that it took someone from the UK to get Bishop Curry to come to Kwasa rather than someone from the US. But that's a different story. Let me see what we can do with this. And stay tuned because we're going to close in a moment with a prayer for Africa. So we need to all join in that. Let's see what I can do with this. Maybe I'm over-promising here.
You can do it, Abbott. We have faith in you.
Abbott, yeah.
We'll start the praying early.
Right. Okay, so let me see if I can share. Trisha, do you have any suggestions? I saved it.
You can, there should be a share screen. When you have the share screen, hit
Right,
that.
okay.
And
Do you
then
get something
And
now?
then play.
Do you have it something now?
No. Not yet.
Here we go.
You have something now?
Yeah.
Yes.
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 There he is.
There he is.
No sound.
We don't get sound.
Oh, no sound.
Sure, you're not muted. It's not muted there.
Wait a minute.
I don't think we need the sound.
Yeah.
He's having a wonderful time.
Yeah, no sound.
We'll try and send it out on an email so you can enjoy it another time.
Okay.
Well, having seen Bishop Curry on his mission of love trip, I can visualize his singing and activity. He is one of the most physically active in support of his praying.
So, yeah, so we can, it's only, okay, so well, you don't have any sound, no audio.
No audio.
Should be, but it's not playing. So I'll fix that and send it to you, John. You could maybe circulate it on email.
Okay.
I did point out both of your banners to him, and he was very complimentary about both your churches. Just know that.
Just a minute, for whatever reason, I've got sound here, but, okay. So are there any further questions?
I'll just,
Oh, go ahead.
not a question. I'll just, Sharron, I'm involved with the Internet Society, which puts internet around the world, particularly Africa and other places. I'll contact you to see whether I can link something up for you.
Oh, John, that would be awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Sharron, thanks so much for sharing time with us.
Hello.
And your vision is our vision. And I think I feel enlivened now. So thank you so much for spending the time with us. And what I would like to do, we have a few applauses here, but on our diocesan committee, it is our tradition that we end a meeting with a prayer for Africa, which Trevor Hoveston, I believe, wrote many years ago. And so he's from the UK originally. So let me see if I can share that. So Sharron, would you mind leading us in prayer? Or you can add something to your prayer. It was just one way to conclude, but any further prayers would be helpful.
Holy, most gracious God, we thank you for this time which you've made possible. We thank you that despite the many miles that separate us, we find unity in you. We thank you that it is you, Holy God, who has drawn us together because you had a plan and a vision for children in this part of your creation. And so we thank you for the joy of being united, the joy of serving you as in our different ways we serve the children of Kwasa. We pray, Holy God, for your protection over children everywhere. We pray for the homes where there is need, where there is sorrow, but where also there is that little flickering flame of hope. Because in so many ways, through Kwasa, you bring hope into lives. And as we've rejoiced at being united in this way tonight, so we return to our lives and our homes, refreshed and renewed and revitalized through the contact that we've made here again tonight. So we pray that you would continue to hold before us the way forward, that you would continue to inspire us and lead us into the future. I thank you for the friendship of all these people and for all that they mean to me and to Kwasa. And so my prayer for them is that you would keep them safe, their families, that you would surround them with your love, nurture them, and bless them. And as we pray for one another, so we pray together the prayer for Africa. God
bless Africa. Guard her
Guard
children.
her children.
Guide
Guide
her
her
leaders.
leaders.
And
And grant her
peace.
peace.
For Jesus Christ's sake.
Amen.
Amen.
The peace of God.
Okay, sorry, I was going to ask Rob if he might. Rob, do you have any comments you would like to add or prayer?
I'm so glad that we had this call. Thank you for putting this together, everybody who helped make it happen. And thank you for spending this time. Thank you, Sharron, especially for sharing the exciting and hard and important work that you have been doing and giving us those visuals and talking us through. I mean, I haven't been there before, but I can imagine where you have brought things from to where they currently are. And it's heavy on my heart that I did a quick Google search because I was curious, is COVID on the rise or is it coming down? And apparently COVID is on the rise in South Africa. And I'm very mindful that we who are living in North America are in a mindset of, thank God we're finally getting close to the end. And that's probably not your mindset at all. The vaccination rate, people who've had a first vaccine in this city, I think is over 50% in DC, and similar across the country. And I think in South Africa, it's 0.5%.
It's
So
shocking. Robert. And if I can just share with you, sorry to interrupt you, but I know many of you would respond to this. Sonia tested positive day before yesterday for COVID. And so Michael John and I both went for testing yesterday. Michael John is positive. He has COVID. My test is negative so far, but I'm self-isolating. So I'm just sharing with you, it's not over. It's still a very real threat for all of us. And yeah, if I could just ask for your prayers for Michael John, Sonia, and little Hannah. Sorry, Rob, for that.
It's really important. And thank you for sharing that part with us as well. But I think we're going to do a dismissal now, right?
Yes.
Sharron, would you offer us a blessing dismissal?
Certainly. The peace of God, which passes all understanding. Keep your hearts and minds in the knowledge and love of God and of God's Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord. And the blessing of God Almighty, Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer, be among you and remain with you and with all those whom you love, all those who love you, this night and forevermore. Amen.
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 I'm sorry, I forgot it's not night for you. It's still daytime.
It's okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Abbott.
Thank you, St. John's.
Lots of love. Kay,
Thank you,
Michael
Kay.
John.
Thank you, Kay.
Yes.
So good to see you.
Can you close it off?
Aiden says bye. Aiden says hi.
Wait,
look,
Bill has just
Michael John.
Michael John.
Oh,
Let's just say, oh, lovely.
Oh,
Wow. See it in the right-hand corner? The kids in the right-hand corner.
hi, everyone.
hi.
Oh.
Thank you for joining.
Oh, so sweet.
I know, she's beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
shy.
Yes, love to all.
May you,
Ciao. Bye.
Bye, sweet
You're
Hannah.
gross.
may your health